Hi, and good morning on this Tuesday morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take for Market Rebellion. Yesterday, what an incredible day once again. As a matter of fact, we start the week off with a bang on Monday. We were up about 100 points. We ran up and spent most of the day up about 250, 280 points. And then late in the day, a nice surge to finish up nearly 400 points, actually 378 points on the day. So a really nice performance yesterday in the Dow. Now, a little bit of a different story in the NASDAQ. As a matter of fact, the NASDAQ opened up at the highs of the day, up about 67 points, sold off a little bit, and did have a nice gain in the final 45 minutes of the day, like we've seen so many times before. The theme, buying late in the day and moving up, and actually finishing okay on the day for the NASDAQ. And what was really powering the NASDAQ? Well, all kinds of different areas, but really when you look and start to break it down, a lot of it had to do with the areas of the markets or the segments of the market that actually would do well if we are able to come up with a treatment sometime in the near future. So what did we have working to the upside? We had airlines, we had American, we had Delta, you had United, we had Southwest, all of which had option activity as well. Some of the travel stocks, Expedia and bookings, the cruise lines with Royal and Carnival certainly stand out. And then, of course, the casinos. You look at Wynn, you look at Penn, you look at Las Vegas Sands, all of those types of gambling stocks seem to have had a nice big shift to the upside in hopes of something. So we'll see if that comes out. But a lot of the time we've seen there was any kind of positive news with the virus and the pandemic stocks that start moving to the upside. And that certainly was the case yesterday. Now, in terms of the Dow, the industrials were absolutely flying yesterday. That was pushing the markets along with some of those energy names, Exxon and Chevron. We'll talk about Exxon in just about a second here. But Boeing yesterday, Dow, Raytheon, Caterpillar, the worst of those performers, Caterpillar was still up almost 2.5%. Boeing was up over 6.5%, and the others fell somewhere in between. But a really solid performance yesterday with the industrials. Now, we've watched some of this shifting and moving and all the focus on tech all the time. But yesterday, certainly the focus really shifted right back over to the industrials, and they really did have a nice performance yesterday. Volatility index hardly moved at all. Here we were trading, and we've talked about this for a while now, very just basically sitting right between 22 and call it 22 and a half. A little bit of a pop here and there or a drop here and there, but for the most part, still trading right around those levels. Now, Friday, I talked about the incredible volumes that we'd seen in the markets in terms of the derivatives markets. It was over 31 and a half million contracts. Well, yesterday, followed it up with a very nice performance as well on a Monday. We finished up with 28 and a half million contracts trading. So another very busy day. As a matter of fact, unusual option activity, and I mentioned this yesterday on the take, but it was probably the most active first hour and a half and then the rest of the day as well. It just continued throughout the day to see a lot of very unusual option activity, a lot of very bullish option activity, and it seemed to have served well as the markets absolutely were screaming to the upside, and especially in the final minutes of the day to finish up another 100 points from where they were for most of the day. So that was very, very interesting, I thought, as well. Now, late in the day, after the markets closed, we suddenly get this news that they're going to be shifting around the Dow as we're going to see Apple with that 4-for-1 split. So they're going to be replacing a couple of names. The replaced names are going to be Exxon, Pfizer, and Raytheon. Now, the names that are going in, it's pretty interesting because the Pfizer and Amgen flop actually kind of matches up fairly well. And so that will be, relatively interesting because we talked about Amgen for a very long time, very much like a pharmaceutical. It trades at a very pleasant PE level relative to the normal biotech world, and it also pays a dividend. So that combination makes it a fairly interesting stock because Pfizer obviously been there for a long period of time, and Pfizer just that solid performer, and now they're going to be replacing it with a much higher dollar amount. But when you're looking at Amgen, Salesforce really is probably the shocker. And I say that because Exxon, which was pulled out, been there on and off. If you followed this for an amazing period of time, Exxon all through all the different buys and sells and everything else going way, way back, replaced by Salesforce. Wow. Now that's pretty interesting. It shows you that the movement towards having a little bit more tech exposure is something that certainly was obviously part of the play here in terms of the selection of Salesforce. And then Honeywell, which does make a lot of sense. Honeywell's been there before. Honeywell's a pretty interesting stock, very GE related long ago, but has turned into a slightly different company over time, and certainly I think does fit very, very well. Now, in the pre-markets, we'd seen the markets actually look like they were going to be screaming to the upside. Up over 100 points almost throughout the pre-market session. I was listening to the guys as I was working out this morning and hearing the numbers. They're up 145, 165, all those kinds of numbers. We actually get into the day and almost immediately pull back. As a matter of fact, the Dow right now is negative. The Dow was positive, just hanging around very flat though. NASDAQ, similar, was up a little bit more, and the NASDAQ basically call it completely flat as well. So will they be adding to those record highs with the S&P and the NASDAQ? That's something everybody's going to be wanting to see as well. Now, flat early, of course, but so what was really getting hit early? Well, those names that are getting pulled out of the Dow, those are the names that we were seeing a little bit of selling pressure. Pfizer, Exxon, Raytheon, all under pressure. And then on the other flip side of that, Amgen looks a little higher. Honeywell looks a little higher. Salesforce looks a little higher. All of them up more than 3% early on. So obviously that shift and people shifting back and forth trying to decide if these names are going to be able to perform a little bit better. That's up for a lot of debate, and we've heard already a little bit of the debate about that already on television today with CNBC. Now, talk about each and every day there's something very, very interesting in the earnings. Well, today it's got to be Best Buy. Best Buy absolutely crushing the numbers. I mean, crushing the numbers. And you look at what they did in terms of e-commerce, the online sales, absolutely extraordinary, very similar to a Target, quite honestly, with incredible growth, those numbers just exploding to the upside. Stock had run into this number and actually is selling off pretty substantially today, just because most likely some of the cautious look in terms of the outlook ahead. Will they be able to hit those types of numbers again? And that's certainly something concerning. So the combination of sprinting into this and some of that concern going forward seems to be what's really putting some pretty decent selling pressure on Best Buy. But an amazing quarter, stocks down about 6%. Obviously, as I mentioned, I think some of that outlook certainly playing a part there. SMH started off pretty strong today. It was up about 0.75%. We'll see if it can hold on to those gains as the markets are kind of trading relatively flat right now in terms of the NASDAQ, totally flat. S&P, totally flat. Dow, down about 36 points, which is a very, very small number on a $28,000 entity. So we're not so worried about that. Financials started off the day pretty nicely, though. You look at JP Morgan and Citi, and you look at Bank of America, all up about 1%. JP Morgan up and back over that $100 level, trading about 101 right now. So almost exactly a 1% move pulling off of that for JP Morgan. The unusual option activity that we've seen already, it's not nearly as busy as it was yesterday. Yesterday at this time, we already had at least 10 entries. And as we got into the first hour and a half or so, we really had an enormous amount of unusual option activity yesterday. Yesterday, what was interesting was Zoom being down, and a lot of conversation about that and the sell-off in that stock because of that. Some of the concerns. Is this something that we have to be concerned about? Once again, Zoom has had issues in the past. There's been just story after story, and then will they be able to bounce back? Well, with the stock trading today about 284.50, we had a pretty interesting buyer. Short term, matter of fact, just about everything we'd seen early on is extremely short term, expiring on Friday. But this one, looking at 4,500 of this Friday's expiring 290 calls. Now, just yesterday, stock was trading well over 290. I think it was trading about 292 yesterday. So they're buying the 290 calls, trading for about $3.50 all the way up to about $6. But stock trading, as I say, about 284.50. So it's going to have to make a move. It's going to have to happen fairly rapidly. It's made that reverse pretty rapidly from 292 yesterday down to these levels. So is that a possibility? It certainly could be. And somebody out there is putting a pretty good amount of money when you talk about 4,500 of these things for, call it on average, about $4.50, $5. That's a pretty substantial gamble that this thing has a little bit of upside in front of it. We'll see if that's something that's going to be able to play out or not. Folks, knowledge is king. We bring it up each and every day. The options markets, the derivatives markets. You heard me talk about those volumes. We've got the best guys in the business, guys and gals. We've got the educators out there that can get you to the point where you can understand this field that's growing so fast each and every day. I hope you take me up on that. It's really a lot of fun each and every day, and the risk controls that you can have as well. There's a lot of different factors, but you've got to understand the mechanics. And if you can understand those mechanics, you really can have a better opportunity, no doubt, for some success. Folks, have a great day of trading, and I'll see you on the halftime report today. I'm a little bit spiffy. My wife had a wonderful birthday yesterday. Thank you so much to so many of you who actually did shout outs to my wife on that. She just enjoys her birthday, doesn't care about any gifts, doesn't care about anything else, just absolutely loves it and appreciates everybody out there who wished her well. Thanks for that, and have a great day. I'll see you on the halftime report at noon today.